It's 6:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. You're making coffee, your phone buzzes an emergency alert, not a test. The skies over every major city on Earth have gone dark, not from clouds, from ships. This is the moment humanity has argued about, dreamed about, feared about for centuries. Today we're not asking if it could happen, we're asking what happens next, because the science is more terrifying than any Hollywood film. Before a single shot is fired, before a single world leader speaks, there's a problem. We wouldn't know what we were looking at. Our deep space monitoring systems, SETI, NASA's radar arrays, ground-based observatories, they're designed to detect signals, radio waves, electromagnetic pulses, light patterns. A civilization advanced enough to cross the stars might not emit any of those things. In 2017, astronomers detected a fast-moving object entering our solar system from outside it. They named it Oumuamua. Scientists couldn't agree on what it was. Some said a rock, some said a comet. Harvard astronomer Avi Loeb published a serious scientific paper suggesting it might be artificial. We never found out. It was already gone. Now imagine that object stopped. At that point, our first contact isn't a radio message. It's a shadow over a city. Governments would likely be aware before the public. Satellites would flag anomalies. NORAD, the North American Aerospace Defense Command, tracks over 27,000 objects in space at any given moment. Something that large, moving with that kind of precision, they'd see it. But here's where the science gets disturbing. A civilization with the technology to reach Earth in any reasonable timeframe would need to travel at a significant fraction of the speed of light. The nearest star system, Alpha Centauri, is 4.37 light-years away. Even at 10% the speed of light, faster than anything we've ever built by a factor of thousands, the journey takes 44 years. They planned this for a long time. That means whatever they're doing when they arrive, they didn't come unprepared. The first minutes wouldn't be explosions, they'd be silence, and silence in that moment would be the most terrifying sound on Earth. Let's talk about the gap, not the gap between us and them emotionally, the gap between us and them technologically. We measure technological growth using something called the Kardashev scale, named after Soviet astronomer Nikolai Kardashev in 1964. A Type 1 civilization uses all the energy available on its planet. We, humanity, are currently at about 0.73 on that scale. We haven't even reached Type 1 yet. A Type 2 civilization harnesses the entire energy output of its star. Think a Dyson sphere, a shell around a sun, capturing every photon. A Type 3 civilization harnesses the energy of an entire galaxy. Any civilization capable of interstellar travel is, at minimum, a Type 2. Now think about what that means in terms of weapons. Our most powerful nuclear weapon, the Tsar Bomba, tested by the Soviet Union in 1961, released 50 megatons of energy. It shattered windows 900 kilometers away. It created a mushroom cloud 67 kilometers high. The energy output of our sun, per second, is equivalent to 100 billion Tsar Bombas. A Type 2 civilization can direct that energy. They wouldn't need explosions. They wouldn't need missiles. They could, theoretically, focus solar energy at a specific point on Earth's surface with pinpoint accuracy. They could superheat the atmosphere. They could disrupt magnetic fields. They could knock out every electrical grid on the planet without a single physical weapon crossing into our airspace. And here's the part that breaks your brain. A civilization that advanced might not even consider us a military threat. The way you don't consider ants a threat when you're building a highway. That's not cruelty. That's indifference. And indifference at that scale of power is worse. We have a plan, sort of. The United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs, UNOOSA, has a framework called the Declaration of Principles for Post-Detection Protocol. It's a set of guidelines for how world governments should communicate if extraterrestrial intelligence is confirmed. It was last significantly updated in 1989. We've gone from floppy disks to artificial intelligence in that time. Our alien contact playbook hasn't kept up. But militarily, the response would be more sophisticated than people assume. Within minutes of confirmed contact, the United States would activate STRATCOM, Strategic Command, which controls nuclear forces. NATO's Article 5, which states an attack on one member is an attack on all, would almost certainly be invoked, though nobody wrote that treaty with aliens in mind. Every nuclear-capable nation would go to their highest alert status. And here's the dark irony. As the alien ships descend, the greatest threat to human survival in those first hours might be us. Military theorists call it the second strike problem. In a crisis of unprecedented uncertainty, nations that are normally allies start calculating independently. Who fires first? Who holds back? Do you share intelligence or protect it? In 2024, a study published in Nature Human Behavior modeled how human cooperation breaks down under existential threat scenarios. The finding: under extreme uncertainty, cooperation often decreases, not because people become evil, but because when the stakes are infinite, the risk of trusting someone else feels unbearable. We might fracture just as we needed to be whole. But let's say somehow we do coordinate, we unify, every military on Earth points in the same direction. Our best weapons, hypersonic missiles, electromagnetic pulse weapons, directed energy systems, travel at Mach 5 to Mach 20, fast by any human standard. A ship capable of interstellar travel can likely maneuver faster than our targeting systems can compute. We'd be firing at where they were, not where they are. Our nuclear arsenal might work if we could get close enough. An electromagnetic pulse from a nuclear detonation could theoretically disrupt electronic systems, even alien ones, assuming their technology has anything we'd recognize as electronics. That's a lot of assumptions. The honest answer to what would we do? We'd fight, because that's what humans do. Whether it would matter is a different question. Here's the scenario most invasion movies ignore: microbes. When European settlers arrived in the Americas in the 1490s, they didn't conquer the indigenous population primarily through military force. The biggest killer was disease: smallpox, measles, typhus. Populations with no immune exposure had no defense. Historians estimate that within a century of contact, up to 90% of the indigenous population of the Americas had died, largely from diseases they'd never encountered. Now reverse that. An alien species arriving from another world would carry biology we have never been exposed to. Bacteria, viruses, spores, proteins that our immune systems have never learned to recognize, because there's no evolutionary reason they would have. But here's the twist: it works both ways. Any Earth microorganism, a common cold virus, a soil bacterium, could be catastrophic to an alien biology that evolved under entirely different conditions, on a different planet, with different chemistry. Remember the War of the Worlds? H.G. Wells wrote that in 1898. The aliens weren't defeated by armies, they were killed by bacteria. That wasn't just narrative poetry, it was scientifically grounded. NASA already has protocols for this. It's called Planetary Protection Policy. When we send probes to other worlds, we sterilize them obsessively, because even a single Earth bacterium contaminating Mars could destroy any chance of finding native life. Any advanced alien civilization would likely know this. They would either have solved the biology problem, engineered themselves beyond biological vulnerability, or they would never, ever leave their ships. Which raises a question nobody wants to ask. If they've been sitting in those ships above our cities for days, what are they waiting for? Hollywood has given us a comfortable answer to why they'd attack: resources, conquest, survival. They want our water, our minerals, our planet. But let's run that through the science. Water, the most commonly cited resource, is one of the most abundant molecules in the universe. Ice exists on moons, comets, and asteroids throughout our solar system alone. Any civilization with the technology to reach us can access water without ever entering Earth's gravity well. Minerals, same logic. Asteroid mining is a concept we're already developing, and we're barely a Type 0.73 civilization. An advanced species wouldn't need to fight us for what they can take from uninhabited rocks. So why attack? There are really only 3 credible scientific hypotheses. 1. Fear, the Fermi paradox, the question of why we haven't heard from alien civilizations despite the universe being billions of years old, has a dark solution called the dark forest theory, popularized by Chinese author Liu Cixin. The premise: the universe is silent because every civilization, once it becomes aware of others, has an overwhelming incentive to eliminate them before being eliminated. Not out of malice, out of pure survival logic. We announced ourselves with the Voyager Golden Record, our radio signals, our radar. To dark forest civilization, that was a mistake. 2. Experiment or indifference. They're not attacking us in any way we'd recognize as war. We're a protected natural system, or simply irrelevant, and what looks like an attack to us is something else entirely, perhaps an act of terraforming for a purpose we can't conceive. 3. We did something. This is the one that keeps theoretical physicists quietly anxious. In recent decades, we've been transmitting signals into space deliberately. Projects like METI, Messaging Extraterrestrial Intelligence. Some of the world's greatest scientists, including Stephen Hawking, publicly warned against this. Hawking's argument, if aliens visit us, the outcome would be much as when Columbus arrived in America, which didn't turn out well for the Native Americans. Maybe they didn't come to take something. Maybe they came because we asked them to. Here is the thing about humans that no Kardashev scale can measure. We are extraordinarily hard to kill. Not because we're strong, not because we're fast, but because we are the only species on this planet that has consistently thrived by adapting, not physically, culturally, technologically, socially. We survived ice ages with no more than fire and animal skins. We survived plagues that killed a third of Europe. We walked out the other side of 2 world wars, and in each case, something unexpected happened. We got better. If an alien civilization struck our electrical grids and sent us back to zero, within decades, human survivors would rebuild, perhaps differently, perhaps better. Perhaps we discover technologies through the rubble of what was destroyed. History has a pattern: catastrophic collapse followed by explosive innovation. The Black Death in the 14th century, as horrific as it was, accelerated labor reforms, economic restructuring, and eventually contributed to conditions that sparked the Renaissance. Destruction at civilizational scale is sometimes also a reset button. But let's not be naive. A civilization at Type 2 or Type 3 could sterilize this planet from orbit. No fight, no drama, just gone. If they wanted us extinct, we would be. The fact that in this scenario they descended, they showed themselves, they came close enough to be seen, that might be the most important detail of all, because you don't introduce yourself to something you're about to erase. The question isn't really, what if aliens attacked Earth? The deeper question is this: what does it say about us that this is the scenario we imagine? We project onto the cosmos the same logic we've applied to each other for millennia: empires, conquest, fear of the other. Maybe the most terrifying alien invasion isn't one from the stars. Maybe it's the version we've already been running on ourselves. Or maybe those ships in the sky aren't here to attack at all. Maybe they're watching, waiting, deciding. And maybe, just maybe, what they decide depends entirely on what they see us do next. If that made your brain hurt in the best way, hit subscribe. Every week on What Ifs, we combine real science with the most mind-bending what-if scenarios imaginable. Drop in the comments, do you think an alien civilization would be hostile or peaceful, and why? And if you want to go deeper, our next episode asks a question just as unsettling. What if we're not the most intelligent species on Earth right now? See you there.